That's it. That's it. Ready to make a motion with the proper moment.
Let's move quick here. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the early morning meeting, which hasn't been our custom this session for education. I'm proud of everybody that woke up, got here. I've heard one or two of you have already had an 8 o'clock meeting this morning, so thank you. I think as the audience is aware, we go into session at 1 today, so we moved our meeting due to that to early morning this morning. Glad to get up and moving. Let's begin, if we can. Representative Clark, do you mind giving us a prayer?
Our heads. Dear Lord, just thank you for this morning, this time that we have here. Just be with us, and please just let this committee always put the kids first and their education. And we just thank you for all the blessings. In the name of the Lord Jesus, amen.
Thank you very much. Let me state here, we've got a bill to take a look at and discuss. Members, I'm sure you've read it and gone over it. I know subcommittee has looked at it, and if I remember correctly, in subcommittee it passed unanimous through the committee. So Representative Douglas, would you come out here and have a seat right there in the middle? And if you'd be ready, and go ahead and present your bill as soon as I can get your microphone cut on. Oop. Check to see if that's working. There we go.
Hot mic.
It's all yours,
Yes, sir.
Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members and guests, thank you this morning for allowing me to present my bill. I was working off a substitute, and so now it has changed to another substitute. I'm working off of LC 491283S. That is the new sub. Everybody good?
Okay.
Like the chairman said, this bill was vetted in the subcommittee, and it passed out unanimously. But of course, this is the full committee, and thank you for me giving me the pleasure to bring it forth to you. There was one change that we heard during our meeting, that I was amenable to the Georgia High School Association to add that into this legislation. So I hope it pleases their appetite this morning to see that I have worked with them in adding this few words. So the bill is still the same. If you would turn with me to line 20, I think it's 22, where it says utilizes instant replay or a video review protocol. I think that's the only thing that was added to the bill. And it's also stated again down in line 24. So they can use either or. So there's an option there. Are there any questions from the committee?
Hold on, let me do that. If one second there. The linebacker in him's coming out right away, isn't he? Try to run up in this hole, right?
Sorry about that, Mr. Chairman. The time is near.
The very good bill here, Representative. In the use of the technology, I think, that is in place. Would you quickly, just briefly with the whole committee, talk about what game this covers, and also kind of how that process is, takes place, just in your mind?
Okay. I'm going to take you on a little journey. I know time is essence. I know we have other committees, but we're in this one now, so this takes precedent. I've been on the Georgia High School Association Oversight Committee now for, I think this is my my third term, being on this committee. Started back with Senator Ellis Black, who is no longer here, was a senator. And also I served under Chairman Martin on the same committee the previous session. We have worked hand in hand in trying to, I would say, put things together and work cohesively with Georgia High School Association in helping them move the program and their facilities along throughout this process. Over the years, they have been games that have come into question about how the game was called, and the how can I say this? The potential of not playing another game and having one call ruin the game for the high school seniors. The other kids may be able to come back, but of course, how championships are, it's hard to get back, and so that might be their only chance to actually have a state championship. Moving forward, I was watching ESPN, bring you full circle, bring you up to date. I was watching ESPN and we made the news, national news, and I've never ever, other than seeing athletes who are about to go into college, basketball, football, whatever have you, that's been on ESPN. And this made ESPN national news about this football game, and it was disheartening. I got calls. I'm a coach, and they wanted me. It was an outcry. They wanted me to help do something about the situation that happened this year. As a coach and as a person, we teach our kids, young men, and I know some coaches coach girls also, but we teach our kids integrity. And how do you, how can that be illustrated by what happened to these kids this year by making it national news? And it should have a query in your heart to know that it just doesn't affect the kids, it affects the parents also. Because the parents sometimes have to get up and take these kids. It's not like just get them to school. They have practice early in the morning sometimes, and parents have to make provisions or take them themselves before they go to work. Because I know with my kids, we used to work out before school. And so the parents had to make, or we had to help them make a means of getting them to school early in the morning and having them there prepared. And so we try to teach them manhood, but most of the kids are coming from single parent homes where they have no father there. I have all girls in my house. And so it was an outlet and also helping train the future men of our state, giving them some type of guidance when things are going awry in our society today. It touched my heart this year with the calls, and not just from the kids, but it was more so the parents that wanted it to be equal. That's all we want today in our everyday life, is to be treated equally, or if not, have a chance to make it right. And so I decided to bring forth this legislation to not only take the stain off of the state of Georgia, but try to get ahead of Alabama for a change. But they're
That's right.
But they're already doing it, of course. And so we're just trying to play catch up and start anew. And that's how this bill came to form. Me coaching, being on either end is not good. It's a teachable moment. I never tell my kids they lose. I say we win some and we learn some. And so there's a lesson in everything we do in life. So while you're coaching, you're not only ministering to the kids, you're also teaching them life lessons, that sometimes everything doesn't go your way. And what are you going to do? Are you going to quit, or are you going to keep going? Or are you going to make a change so you want to do the same thing to get the same outcome that you got that day? And so that was my main effort, to bring forth and try to bring some clarity to something that was a light shined on it, and it's a stain. And I just don't want to be a permanent stain. And so today, that's how this bill came came to you in fruition. And we wanted to not put the burden on the schools that are not capable of paying for this one-time deal. It's only during the championship. I had several calls since I dropped the bill, and Dewey signed onto my bill, Representative Dewey McClain, and he's gotten calls from parents wanting to add other sports to this bill before it gets through. And I just told the parents, let's pump your brakes. Let's get this one done first, so we can have some type of a measuring stick, if it's effective or not. And so that's how this bill has got to you. And I'm pouring out my heart a little bit. I normally don't talk this much, but it's not about me. It's for those who are coming behind. And so I'm just trying to make it better. And Mr. Chair, that's it.
Thank you, Representative. That's exactly the answer we needed to the question. I see one question for you. I'm opening it up to the group right now, and the first one on there, Representative, oh, I see two now, Wilkerson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative Douglas, for bringing this bill. I guess two comments or questions. One, and I know this is the case, but high school football championships, that would only be Georgia. So if, and I don't know if this is as common in football, but if you had like Georgia versus, a school in Florida, for example, as a championship, they called it a championship. Is that wouldn't be expected, or would that school be able to participate? Because I know a couple of years ago we had to go back in and fix some things because schools were trying to participate in other states. So do we need to clarify that, or are we good with the language of saying any high school championship game?
Now, that's out of my swim lane as far as, because that's considered, I'm not mistaken, that's considered it's not under the rules. It's considered, hold on, let me get my thoughts together. I'm trying to get the correct word for it.
Let me add to that. Well, I mean, because I don't know if high school football championship is defined in code. Maybe it is. I don't know. But if it isn't, could a Georgia-Florida championship game be considered that school would not be able to participate? And maybe that's a high school association question.
Let me refer, if I can, to Mr. Walker for a second. Mr. Walker, could the intent here be stated?
Mr. Chairman, my first thought would be that the championship games may be defined by whatever high school or whatever athletic association is sanctioning the activities. And so if they provide for a definition of which championships fall under their jurisdiction, this is all tied back to the General Assembly's regulation of athletic associations of any stripe. In this particular case, it would be GHSA, but theoretically it could be any athletic association. So whatever championship game that athletic association is sponsoring and promoting and hosting would be a championship game that would be, that would fall under the auspices of this legislation.
Is everybody staring like I am? Because
No.
and the only reason, and I'll just comment real quick, is I know several years ago when Wheeler High School tried to play a championship game in New York, we had to go back and clarify that they could participate in the championship because at the time GHSA had some issues with participating in a game after the championship game. That's that one thing to maybe to look at. And then the second thing is, does this include flag football? Because now that flag football for females is just as popular, should we make sure that includes both sports?
If it's considered football, I know it's flag football, but that's a good question. I would have to,
And I apologize for not bringing this up earlier.
yeah. It's a good question.
Let's do this if we can, Representative. Good questions. Work towards the answer to that. There
Okay.
can be clarifications as this bill travels.
Okay.
I think
Yes,
we
no
can
problem.
work from that point.
I did play in the first Georgia-Florida All-Star game, just for the record.
Just for the record. Okay, let's move on to a couple more questions and see if we can get those answered this morning. Who is number 17 down there? There you go, Ms. Glaze, Representative
Oh, I
Glaze.
don't have a number on mine. But thank you, Chair. And I like this bill. I just wanted to ask you a couple of questions that relate to parents having input into this bill, and how did you gather enough parents that impacted you? I know you got calls, but did you go back to those same parents, talk about this bill with them, and did you also talk to those teams that were the precipitous of this bill? And then what was some of the feedback? This is new to me, so I'm sorry if I'm maybe asking a redundant question.
No problem, ma'am. Like I said before, I've been on the oversight committee for Georgia High School Association for many years now, and this is not the first time this has happened during a game, championship game. And so over the years, we thought we had given latitude that this could be corrected, and it hasn't. And so that's how this bill has come forth today. I have not reached back out to the parents who called me initially. There are several that I've responded to that emailed me. That corresponds to them was the bill is in process, and stay tuned because it's a work in progress. And so, yes, I have reached back out to the parents.
So based on your answer, I can assume that you had parental support along with the support of those students who were, I say, affected in this current football season. So this is fully supported.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the list, I believe number 11, is that Representative Wade, floor leader?
Thank you, Chairman. Appreciate you bringing the bill. I'm definitely in support of the concept, just given where we are technologically. My question would be is, if you were to continue to keep this just focused, as you said, on football for now, so that there could be measured response, see what happens throughout the next couple of school seasons, is there anything in your legislation that would prevent Georgia High School Association from working with schools to add additional sports within their rulemaking so that it could be expanded to other sports for championship games, as well as even adopting the same practice if the technology is, over the next few years received in the schools, that they could implement it within their individual, region play or region championships? I mean, I'm a former school board member, so we've talked about this. I mean, locally, like, do we need to do this in basketball? When there are plays that can be determinative, if you will. So my question specifically is, this could codify it for football, but it would not prevent Georgia High School Association from continuing to expand it. Is that a true statement?
Yes, the gentleman knows by what he speaks.
Okay.
I want to iterate this morning. Whenever you start something new, it is a gauge for the things that come behind. And so from this, if we're still human, and we're going to make mistakes, but if we have an apparatus or something that can correct, because we can't see or do everything at one time. And so if one pair of eyes miss it, another pair of eyes miss it, maybe this can help. And this can be a springboard to probably a lot of Georgia high school athletic activities. Starting in the championship, that will give them some type of gauge to see if it really works. And like everybody always says here at the Capitol, if it doesn't work well, we can come back the following year and change it. And so I think this will really help the state of Georgia, number one, to kind of help erase that stain. I got some awesome in my bag, and I know it gets stains out. So, but I just really like us to start down this avenue to help our kids for a better quality in sports.
A couple more questions.
Yes, sir.
Vice Chair Hilton.
Thank you, Representative Douglas. This is one of these common sense bills that I can go home to my constituents and say, we're doing replay, and that they'd love me to death. Help me understand the math, though, on lines 24, 25, 26. So the game generates revenue from ticket sales, and then we hold back the cost of the replay, and then the net proceeds are then sent to the school. A couple questions to unpack there. How much does replay generally cost? And is there a scenario, say on some of the smaller games, right, where ticket sales may only be, and maybe you know the number, how much does ticket sales typically generate? What I'm trying to get to is could there be a scenario where it's a rainy day, no one shows up, no tickets are sold, school has to bear the full brunt of the cost of replay, whatever that might be. Do you have any kind of the numbers there?
Of how much, I know the tickets are much higher during the championship game than any other game of the year. And it's going to be inside for the next 3 years. I think the contract with Georgia High School and. Okay. We hope longer. So.
How much does replay typically cost?
From a cost standpoint, it depends on which unit you use. I'm not sure, but I can get that information if you would like it.
Sure.
But it's a one-time deal, and it's
The
all,
ticket sales would far exceed.
oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I think this is one of the biggest days because it runs 2 days because it's all sports in all levels, from 7A all the way down to I think the private schools. And it's 2 days. It's two-day event because we have so many schools in the system that play.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Number 27, is that Representative Jones? Chairman Jones?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To Representative Hilton's question, do you know the split between the GHSA and the high schools? So once the net is calculated, how is that split between the association and the high schools?
That's not my everyday, but they're here. I'm quite sure if the chairman would allow, I think they may have those numbers.
Robin, would you mind answering the question? I'd ask you to come to the podium, but it's totally up to you here. We'll allow that. I got your podium mic on.
The Georgia High School Association receives 12% of postseason play. None in the regular season, 12% in the postseason play. Expenses, travel, and the remainder is split among the participating schools.
Gotcha.
So, I'm sorry?
Gross.
So, Representative Douglas, I'm in support of the bill, but I'm just wondering, just for efficacy purposes, do we want to make it clear in lines 25 and 26 that the distribution isn't just to the high schools, but also to the association? Because it would imply, based on this, the reading of this statute, that it's purely the net would be going to the two participating high schools and not the 12% per Dr. Hines' statement. And again, just offering that up as something to think about as the bill sponsor. Chairman Irwin, can I ask another question, please?
You can.
To Representative Wilkinson's question, sir, on line 20, given my understanding that the association is the only one who schedules official Georgia State High School Championship games, would there be a consideration of changing or to and? This way, unless the Georgia High School Association schedules it, which I understand they've made a contract with Mercedes to do so, we know then that this would come underneath the auspices of that. And to Representative Wilkinson's question, which I think is a good salient question, would that address that?
Yes, it would, but we have more than one agency, high school. We have a private school that's not associated with this. Also.
Correct. But if I understand line 17, sir, it says primarily public high schools. So my understanding of this bill, and forgive me if I'm misreading this bill, my understanding of this bill was this was primarily for public high schools and it did not apply to the private high schools. And again, if I'm reading this incorrectly, please say so, but that's why I thought the and would be appropriate since we're just discussing public high schools.
Chairman, let me interrupt here for a second because I believe we have a fix for that about
okay.
to be amended
Okay.
right now, if that's okay.
Yes, sir.
And we'll hold it then.
And Chairman Irwin, I would like for us to at least consider, and I don't mean to throw this into the pot because I know you're trying to move this, but again, 25 and 26 does clearly state it moves to the high schools and does not state that it moves to the association. And I'm just saying for clarity, I would suggest the rules chairman would ask us if that's absolutely correct. I would just think that we'd want to maybe think about an amendment there.
Okay. Let's handle one at a time first, sure. Chairman. Good. We'll come back to that one. I believe we have discussed here an amendment So I'm gonna cut on your mic, Representative Wilkerson. Oh, wait a minute. Exactly. This is not the appropriate time to do it. But we'll work on that amendment and then come to this amendment at the appropriate time, if that's okay.
Chairman, I need to leave for another meeting at 9:30, but I'm sure, at least I believe the topic has been brought up and that it could be concern.
Okay,
Okay.
got you.
All right, thank you.
And I think you got Chairman right next to you, is shaking his head. He's ready to assist down there. Thank you. Okay, let's do this. I thought I saw another question, don't see it. What I'll do then at this point in time, seeing no other questions, what is the will of the board? Chairman Dubnik.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that House Bill 32 by committee substitute do pass.
Okay. Do we have a second? Vice Chair Hilton with a second on that. Now I believe we're in the process where we can look at an amendment. Representative Wilkerson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to propose the following amendment to just clarify the question that I had earlier. On lines 23, where it says high school association and high school football championship games, I would like to insert state after football. So now that paragraph would read, utilizes instant replay or video review protocol approved by such athletic association in all high school football state championship games. That's the first one. And then in line 25, I would also like to add after high school football the word state. So I'd be adding state in two places, on line 23 after football and on lines 25 after football.
Mr. Chairman,
And then,
consistent with the proposed amendment, may I suggest also in line 6, the same change so it's reflected in the title?
Line 6. That's already in code. Oh, I'm sorry.
high school football state championships also, thank you. I'd like to add that as well.
Like on your amendment, Representative Wilkerson, are you good with that change in line 6?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Hearing this amendment added to this bill, do I hear any objection to the amendment? We have a questions. Yes, I do. Oh, my goodness. All right, we'll start with 17. Who's 17 down there? Is that you, Representative Glaze, again? 17. Oh, she didn't? Okay, 18. Representative Cox.
Yeah, thanks. Should we just say Georgia state championship? Or are we just saying state? Does that have an effect, or are we protected in just saying Georgia?
I suppose if you wanted belt and suspenders, you might refer to Georgia High School Football State Championship games, and that would remove any possibility of doubt.
Okay.
Could I update
Yes,
my amendment?
you're on.
Yeah, thank you.
Please do.
So prior to, let's start with line 6. So where it says video review for Georgia high school football state championship games. So adding Georgia in front. And then on lines 23 before high school, add Georgia. And then on line 25, after such and before high school, add Georgia.
Okay. We have another question. Who is 15?
I am. Good morning.
Good morning, Representative
Well,
Carter.
I actually had the question before you made the other amendment, but it's still fine, same question. Can someone help me understand what is the significance of this change now that we added Georgia State versus having the language as it was originally written? I just need to understand. How does this change this legislation for this championship game?
Solves for interstate.
Correct. The concern is that if there's an interstate game that's deemed a championship game, Georgia, Florida, that this would preclude that high school from participating or sending a coach there. And so we want to be very clear that it's only dealing with Georgia high school football games. So like if you were a guest coach in Hawaii or whatever, that high school coach would not be able to participate in that, program, because we clearly say, so by just limiting it to Georgia, I think that's what the intent of that is. And I believe the author is good with it. Right?
Yes.
It is bad, but I have to vote, so I'm
Yeah, no,
so confused, because I guess I'm just understanding that this bill is only for replay, right? Not whether they can participate.
It's both. If they don't have replay, they can't participate. So this would preclude anybody from participating if they don't have replay.
That's
So
correct.
that's the difference. Is we don't want to limit children from participating in other activities if it's not impacting a Georgia game.
Okay.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yes, exactly. All right, let's do this. We've heard the amendment. A second, yes, please. Thank you. Sorry. We have a first and a second on the amendment. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Okay. Yes. Any further discussion? Yes, we do, Vice Chair Hilton. Here we go.
I'm sorry. I'll keep this. There was mention of private schools. As the parent of a private schooler, does this preclude us from offering replay to private school games? Or private schools who are in championship games?
Well, there are private schools that's a part of that association. If they're not a part of the association, then no. They have,
They have to be members of the association.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Now, Vice Chair, you stirred the pot up here. Number 25 down.
No, I was just going to reiterate, Representative Douglas, is it not true that public schools and private schools are members of Georgia High School Athletic Association, and that's what you're referring to now, where they're a member of a Georgia High School Athletic Association, they'd be affected by this rules?
The gentleman knows by what he speaks. Yes.
And let me remind, as we go to the buttons that are flashing here, we're only talking about amendments. We're not talking about the bill. We'll talk about your amendments, if you would, number 18.
Chairman Jones, who's now gone, brought up a good point, and I'm wondering if we want to, and I would like clarification if possible from Dr. Hines, if you can help us here a little bit as far as the distribution and how that's done, as far as how the allocation of funds is currently like in order from top to bottom on a state championship game. You start with your revenue, deduct your expenses, then 12%. So 44% goes to each school and 12% goes to GHSA. Is that how that lays out?
Yes, please, Dr. Hines.
Simply put, you have expenses, okay, and you take all the gate receipts. Okay. The Georgia High School Association receives 12% of all postseason games. Okay, that's how we earn our operating budget. Okay, in football specifically, of what we're talking about is the bills are paid, everything is done, and then there's a percentage going from 7A, which receives 17.5%. Then it goes to, and I'm not going to get this perfectly right, but it's as the populations grow smaller, typically the rationale for that is the contributions towards the big pot are larger with the large schools, and they go down, and it goes down to 8%. Okay, and so once all the bills are paid and the travel is paid, then the remainder of the money is split up due to those by those percentages going to the participating schools. And I don't want to further complicate matters, but I will, is if you remember when we left the Mercedes-Benz years ago, it was because it was we couldn't afford it. It was a business decision. course, we want to play in the premier venue in the world, but when the way that went down, once the bills were paid, there were $92,000 left to split among 16 schools, to which the association pitched in $250,000 in order to make the payouts more palatable, because we feel like that our schools don't need to lose money playing in the championship. And we know it's the experience and all those things. So we have set a mechanism up to where those payouts are going to be formidable to all of our schools as long as we're there. That's part of the contract as far as our financial means go. So it's going to be fine. And if I could ask something about what you guys have been talking about, as far as the amendment goes, when you talk about Georgia state championships, if you designate it by GHSA state championships, I think that would solve your problem, because there are other associations as well.
Yeah, thank you.
And the private school, and another thing is when schools, public and private, agree to join the Georgia High School Association, they agree to follow the rules. And this would be part of it, because as you may or may not know, prior to this bill, the Georgia High School Association had made the decision to go to video review anyway. And so whether there's a bill or not, this is what we're doing.
Okay.
Thank
you, Dr. Hines.
Dr. Hines, I would like to just clarify. Gate sales, ticket sales, then the 12% for GHSA comes off that before the expenses? Is that what I heard you say?
Yes, that is part of the expense.
But it comes off the first line item, and then the expenses for overhead and everything else. Because I think Chairman Jones was thinking that it was part of the distribution after expenses, when in fact it's part of the actual expense, right?
It is.
Okay, and is that clarified? You follow that? Now, the GHSA question you brought up was something that was discussed, and I think you may have some input on why we're not specific on GHSA?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
Already passed.
Okay.
What I'm going to do, hearing no other amendments to this bill, there's a motion, there's been a second. Shall this bill now pass as amended by the representatives? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Your bill passes. Thank you, Representative. Look forward to seeing this traveling through the Senate.
Thank you.
With that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.